Good evening, folks. What's going on here? It is the Earthmaster on this Sunday, May 22nd date, 2022. A lot of twos in there. It is about 6:34 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 1.7 earthquake here into the California region, West Coast. Also notice some activity popping up on the station out there in Hawaii around the Lea Permanent station. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here on the USGS map. We'll cover Hawaii right off the bat, since that seems to be the hot topic currently. We did see some activity kick up pretty significantly over the southeastern region here of the Big Island of Hawaii. All of this activity, of course, comes after a 4.7 earthquake just west here of this volcano. Not directly underneath it, but it was about a couple miles just to the southwest of the region, followed up by a 2.3. We have not seen any other activity following that 4.7 aside from that 2.3 aftershock, but watching some activity up here around Mauna Loa. Seeing a little swarm of movement kicking up there, and as I mentioned, down here around the southeastern region of the Big Island. Now, the latest information here from the USGS, the HANS notification system. This is the hazard notification system put out for volcanoes across the region. There was the update this morning following that 4.7. They did talk about that there's only been about 2 earthquakes or so with magnitudes greater than 4.0 beneath the volcano, including today's event. This event was primarily lateral slip along a subvertical fault and does not appear to be directly related to magmatic activity, but still got to watch that accordingly pretty closely. There was another update put out here on the, let's go back here real quick, the Kilauea volcano, and doesn't look like there's anything changing here, at least as far as this activity goes here at Kilauea. Looks like the eruption of the lava continues into Lava Lake and onto the crater floor, and this is like an ongoing situation here with the volcano. No major uptick. Looks like there was at least a summit here at the Kilauea. Looks like summit tilt meter showed a mild inflationary trend since about 7 p.m. last night. Sulfur dioxide emission rate of approximately this amount was measured. Mild inflationary. So, and this comes, this kind of comes in prior to that 4.7 there. So, a little bit of activity kicking up here underneath the Big Island. Got to watch that pretty closely. I did add on to the live stream some, or at least one station there around the Big Island monitoring earthquake activity. I already seen a couple earthquakes show up there as I added it on there. So we'll watch it pretty closely. It is out there right in the middle of the Pacific. We have seen a tremendous amount of movement on the northwestern edge of the Pacific Plate, and also down here along the southwestern edge of the Pacific Plate. A lot of westward movement here following all of this deep earthquake activity into the Kermadec Trench region south of Fiji. All this activity very close to 600 kilometers below the surface, so a major adjustment going on down there. We did see a 6.3 late last night in the mix as well. That's a lot of movement, folks, taking place down there in the Fiji Islands area south of there. And then almost immediately following all that deep earthquake activity, we see an adjustment up here where we would expect it with the west-northwestward flow of the Pacific Plate as a whole over here south of Japan. That's where we've seen some other earthquake activity, including a 6.0 just to the south. Far as recent earthquake activity, kind of got to watch that as well, right? Looks like a 4.5 west of this movement, and that's kind of what you expect with the westward trend of activity. Further pressure here along this region of the Philippine Plate. 4.5 at 39 kilometers. Mariana Trench looks pretty quiet for now, but I do expect that to pop up including south of Manila in the Philippines, considering all this earthquake activity we've seen here over the past 24 hours. We did see a little earthquake here in the Java Trench, northern end, about 82 kilometers for 4.6. But that's about it. It's almost like we got this wall here blocking further pressure, but that actually means that pressure is building up here in this region. Got to watch areas around the China region to the west, throughout the Middle East and the Mediterranean Sea, kind of where all this plate boundary interaction comes together. The Atlantic plate, or the Atlantic Ocean, I should say, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on out there through the region today. Looks like we came to a complete stop in terms of earthquake activity here north of Greenland. Of course, if you remember, we did see quite a bit of activity here over the last week, way north here, almost on the very top of the globe, or the flat scale map, however you want to look at it. That has since come to a stop, but all that activity kind of kicked off the movement that we're seeing today along the Pacific plate. Way up there, yes, right. But you got to remember, all of this here is the North American plate, and what affects this North American plate here affects the Pacific plate over here to the west. So it's all a giant jigsaw puzzle, and one of these days we'll figure it out, right? I mean, there's no 100% way to predict earthquakes. A lot of people claim to, but it doesn't happen, right? Percentage of the time, it doesn't make sense. So we kind of look at flows and areas that haven't seen subsequent activity in the past weeks, or in the past few weeks and months and whatnot, and kind of make a decision from there as far as possibly looking at earthquake activity kicking up in the future. But 100% guaranteed? Absolutely not. There's no way. I'm not an earthquake predictor, and there's no one that can predict earthquakes 100% like that. That's just a fact, folks. I can sit here and say that the earthquake's going to happen in California for the next 20 years, right? And one of these days it's going to happen. Earthquake activity in California has remained relatively about background levels. We've seen some movement here around the Ridgecrest area north of the Garlock fault structure throughout the day today, including some activity down here into Southern California, but no major earthquake movement or any type of swarming to take note along the area of Southern California. A little bit of noticeable increase around the Calaveras fault zone of the Bay Area, and that's about it. It comes to a stop up here in Northern California and throughout the Pacific Northwest, which I find pretty odd. So, on that note, let's go ahead and check out the tremor activity tonight, folks. Check that out. 654 epicenters of tremor in the Cascadia. That's a pretty large number tonight. And it beats last night by about, over 200 epicenters. Most of it confined up here to Washington and the Northern California area. Now, this is a Cascadia subduction zone. These are not surface earthquakes. This is energy being released down into the Cascadia and presenting a vibrational frequency, not like your typical earthquake activity, not a jolting, but more or less like a vibration. Right, you're getting that subduction going on there, and the movement, North American plate, Juan de Fuca plate over here to the west. You're getting that further buildup of strain, and just kind of, to me, it's kind of like just winding that spring up just a little bit more, right? And that's what these frequencies, this vibration, is kind of kicking off here on the map. We've got to wind that thing so tight to where eventually a 9.0 or greater will pop off there, off the coast of Oregon and Washington, and no doubt create some havoc. I think that's that's a minimal word for what could happen up here along the Pacific Northwest. But it's getting there, folks. It's building, and it's building. And each time we see these tremor events kick off, it's not a release of energy, right? If you think about it in terms of earthquake activity, this is gaining tension, if you will, along the spring, which is the Cascadia subduction zone there. So 654 epicenters of tremor. That's a pretty good number. Notice the uptick here along the 2022 year. we're getting these frequencies of tremors much closer together on occasions here. Back prior, 10 years or so ago, seemed like it was every 10 months or so, maybe every 18 months, but now it's like every couple months they're getting closer and closer together. So what does that mean? Could it mean that we're pointing towards a big one along the Cascadia? Possibly. We won't know until it happens. And there's no way to accurately predict when this thing will slip. That's a fact. We just got to look at this data, and once it does happen, we'll go back and look at these possible scenarios as to what happened prior to the big, large 9.0 or greater earthquake along the Cascadia, and use that data in the future, hopefully, to possibly predict, or at least forecast maybe the next big Cascadia. But we just don't know. The last one was back in 1700, and I don't think we had all of this data back then, right? So it is what it is. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the earthquake activity here. Let's go back here to the all magnitudes. There's not a whole lot going on throughout the rest of the North American continent and the plate boundary out here because of all this activity here to the northwest and the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Yes, there is some activity in California, but it's not significant, and we're watching that inland activity diminish completely almost throughout Oklahoma, Texas. Only very minimal earthquake activity today. Yellowstone not showing anything in this area of the map. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone seismographs here. And as you can see, guys, this is not ground movement. This is not Yellowstone about ready to blow. It's pretty crazy. That's a pretty crazy map, but if you think about it, I think one of you guys there at the Yellowstone area, or at least, where's this one at? This is in the Hebgen Lake area. So somebody, seismologist, needs to go over there and fix this. This is digital data, but you got to remember that there is a physical data system reading this activity, and there's definitely an error. This is not ground movement. Yellowstone is not inflating over here in the northwestern corner of the park. Please don't let anyone tell you otherwise, no matter what their name is here on YouTube. That's errors. If this was actually data, some type of data going on, you would see this pop up here at Horse Butte. Look at that. Steady as she goes. Do you see any inflation, any type of ground movement? Absolutely not. These are very close stations. So I could pop this thing up here on the channel, take a screenshot and say, oh my God, Yellowstone is tilting, major inflation going on, right? And have 100,000 views on the video. But that's clickbait. This is not what I do. This is errors. These are errors in technical instruments showing that error. I want to point that out, folks, because I'm all about facts. I'm not about drama and clickbait here on this channel. A lot of people like it, but I tell you who doesn't like it. Guess who doesn't like it? YouTube. YouTube does not like clickbait. So people that do that stuff are kind of risking their channel getting not only demonetized, but possibly deleted, right? Get demonetized. You know, what's the point on making videos for quite a few folks out there? So you notice people disappear. They're not in a bunker somewhere. They just decided to give up on their channel. Not going to mention any names out there. All right, guys, let's see what we got here. Localized earthquake activity. We see it. These are these little earthquakes right here on the map. That's about it. There's no major earthquake movement here to report at Yellowstone National Park, and everything looks pretty consistent as years and dates pass. I still can't get the GPS stations to pop up here for the I was kind of monitoring the GPS stations there on the western side of the big island to see what the tilt or the vertical uplift displacement looks like along the western edge of Hawaii, but for whatever reason it will not connect me to the site. They are down currently, and we'll get to it. You know, it is the weekend, so who knows what may have happened. It may have been, who knows, a mouse in the system, or it may have just been some little technical error. But we'll go back there tomorrow once they get that thing up and running, which I'm pretty certain that they will. And we'll check out the western portion here around where that 4.7 struck. I kind of want to see if there's any uplift here, right? Then we can start saying, hey, there's something to watch here around this volcano. Just because we got earthquake activity here around a volcano at about 11 kilometers doesn't mean it's 100% associated with magma or volcanic activity here around this volcano. So once we observe that GPS data, then we'll make that decision from there. But that's very important. We can't just say, hey, look, there's a 4.7 here. She's going to blow. No. There's a couple other things that we have to take into account for in terms of watching volcanic activity. GPS is just one of them. And emissions and like that, gas emissions and whatnot. So, all right, guys, enough of the... man, goodness, it's been a fun day, let me tell you. It's hot. It's dry. Got 99% humidity, folks, here in California. Right? You think right next to the ocean? No, I live here in the valley. 9% humidity, and it was 95 degrees today. Over 100 the next couple days. Let's see what else we got here, folks. We covered that movement. Java Trench, things seem to stop right here at the Java Trench. Puerto Rico did see some movement, but all of this activity here, at least the majority of it, is some older movement. Aside from this activity here on the southwestern portion of Puerto Rico, this activity around the Puerto Rico Trench, older activity. So things have drastically dropped off here. And that tends to make sense with the movement that we've seen on a large-scale basis here along the western portion of the Pacific Plate. Release of pressure for the eastern portion of the plate. And that obviously is showing up today over the last 24 hours. We see it plain as day here. But I do like to point it out. Let's see. Earthquakes Canada, probably about the same. We'll go ahead and check them out just to make sure. This is from a couple days ago, 2.7. Ontario region, back on the 20th. Just kind of giving you guys just a recap. Solar weather activity, we did see a little amplification here in terms of some solar flaring. Looks like we've seen a couple C flares, upper C flares kick off here afternoon time. I've seen those kick up. Looks like a strongest one of 3.1, or at least the latest one of 3.1. And I'm certain some of this activity is from these sunspots that are, well, getting ready to face us here. As massive as these things are, guys, it's not a whole lot of dynamics. There is some intermixing here with 3014. 3017 is gaining strength, but it will be facing away from us. It still will be geo-effective if anything does pop off from here. I still think there's a pretty good potential for some moderate M-flare activity from these sunspots. 3019 not looking like they want to put on a show. 3020 possibly, and 3021 we'll see as these sunspots rotate into view. But there's a lot of sunspots, and some of them are huge, but not all of them produce those flares that we kind of looking forward to. So we'll see what happens here in the coming days, folks. All right, I am going to bounce out of here. I think that's about it far as coverage goes. We will be monitoring the activity around Hawaii. Obviously, see the Hawaii station right here kicking up. A couple earthquakes, obviously. See that movement around the Lea Permanent, looks like the name of that station. Showing some earthquake activity. I will keep that up and running on the live stream to monitor the ongoing situation and earthquake activity around the western portion of the Big Island, and of course any subsequent earthquake activity that may take place. But for now, folks, all is calm. No fear, no doom and gloom. Just a typical day here on this blue planet, which I find quite enjoyable. I love this planet. All right, guys, have a good day. Please stay safe out there, and we will chat you guys another time. Make sure you guys share, like this video. It's pretty important for the YouTube algorithms to like a video and comment. And just kind of let me know where you guys are from out here. We have quite a few viewers If you let me know where you are from, I will comment back and give your comment a heart and a thumbs up. Kind of curious to see where all my viewers are from on this channel. So let's make this video a location or a roll call, right? We can do a roll call here on this video. All right, guys. We'll chat you there in the comments section. Have a safe night. Peace out, everyone.